Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there in the four corners of the earth to proclaim this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Bracha Tum. So, this is a chapter that we're going to be going into a lot as we're living in that times now. And that, from the other translation that I've read of this, verse 3 is more representative of, all 12 tribes of Israel, that pretty much, in that day, when the burden of Damascus, and Damascus being taken away from being a city, that also, the cities of Syria are taken, pretty much what's going to happen is that, our kingdom, which we don't have a kingdom as of yet, but pretty much our footstool, us being able to go out there and prophesy, and do what we got to do, man, that soon we will be taken off the streets, thus, especially dealing with verses 3 on up. But I'm going to go ahead and read it because we know the same devil, Esau, Amalek, at least their flock, is drawing out this war, and we're prophesying very heavily against them. We're coming against us saying you're not the real Jews of the Bible, but rather you're an imposter, and that this bastard, which means imposter, that dwells in Ashdod are not the real Jews. So you can see very much so that also at this time they're going after Syria, and particularly that it is Amalek, because they are pretty much continuing their war of terror. Especially in Syria, but they're going to be doing the same here. Declaring martial law, making us out to be terrorists, when they're the terrorists themselves, when ICE and ISIS are created by the so-called white man. ISIS integration, control, enforcement, and then you got ISIS, which is the Israeli Secret Intelligence Services. But they want you to believe it's the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, but they created these false flag terror groups. Nonetheless, though, it reads, the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The cities of Aurora, which is representative of Syria, they shall be for flocks, which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. So in other words, their whole land is going to be desolate, just like what they're doing to us, because we live in the projects, in Detroit, they've cut off our water, The same fucking devil that does this to Syria is doing the same to us. The forces shall also cease from Ephraim, which actually you could say Israel, because there's further parts of it. And the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they shall be as of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. In other words, pretty much that as they are doing the same to Syria, they're going to be doing the same to us. And we can see that, the way they're demonizing us on the news, and, just the countless, attacks, when they shoot us for no reason whatsoever, all that, same devil. And in that day shall come to pass that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean. So in other words, we ain't going to have shit. Well, that's been around for a while, but, pretty much we won't be able to do what we're doing. And it shall be when the harvestman gathereth the corn, reapeth the ears with his arm, and it shall be as he that gathers ears in the valley of Rephaim. So in other words, pretty much, we ain't going to be able to prosper. We ain't going to have any resources. Well, it's been that way for a while, but just even more so, they're going to be cutting off welfare. They're going to be cutting off food stamps. Donald J. Trump is going to shut down the government again. And this time, be a full shutdown, not just a temporary shutdown. We already seen what this devil can do with a temporary. So I couldn't help but catch this because, as you know, the Super Bowl happened on Sunday. I mean, a lot of us, watched that on the side, or at least caught it in the background. But wasn't much of a game. I mean, the really good shit didn't even happen till the end of the game. But nonetheless, though, pretty much there's a lot of symbols in here. And this is, believe it or not, from another Edomite watcher, who You know, you got a lot of Edomites that prophesy end times as well, which may be a confusion of faith still stuck in Christianity, or just pretty much, you know, even Esau has some, though. But anyways, you know, you know, the video is titled Super Bowl Signs Reveal Judgment on America, Day of Rapture Shocking Must Watch. Oh, in other words, you know, okay, you can see that, like I was just saying, you know, Christianity still stuck in that Christian doctrine, but yet at the same time can see, though, that this is representative of something here. So, you know, take in the meat, but spit out the bones kind of thing. But so he, you know, sees the symbol as there, you know, that the Rams after the Patriots, right?
To the Super Bowl and the date of the beginning of the end times and resurrection rapture. The 2013
we know what the rapture is.
Super Bowl, a 49ers Monday night football game at the beginning of the Hanukkah festival of lighting the candlestick menorah, in which the power and lights went out in a park named Candlestick, the 1989 World Series earthquake, where the power went out at this same Candlestick Park, an earthquake in Russia that killed 1989 people, the power outage that was clearly designed by God in Game 2 of the 2018 World Series, a huge meteor that went over the Bay Area exactly 23 years after the Bay Area World Series earthquake, the earthquake tetrad the Lord designed after the pattern of the blood moon tetrad, end times prophecy in Daniel chapter 8, a prophetic baseball game in 2011 that occurred during the prophetic most powerful earthquake east of the Rockies since 1944, the Boston bombing, the assassination of the president from Boston, JFK,
you could say false
and
flag
Joshua trees that were illegally cut down in Joshua Tree National Park. First, though, one of the goals of this video is to introduce what is being explained on this channel to new people that may be searching for prophetic information about the Super Bowl. The Lord's end times signs are not simply a string of randomly placed signs warning of the increasingly close proximity of the beginning of the end times and the resurrection rapture. In fact, the Lord's signs are coming with
Alright, yeah, see, there is no rapture except for the day of judgment itself, so let me fast forward a little bit, Slovak.
these very last days, the Lord's communication through his signs is being manifested in myriad different ways. In fact, I am consistently surprised to learn of unexpected and unique ways he is giving us signs. It's almost as if he often challenges our faith and our own
Slovak.
In last year's Super Bowl loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Church of Philadelphia is a favored church among the 7 churches in the book of Revelation.
See how Esau loves to put their Illuminati stuff out there?
Prior to the beginning of the end times. Because you have kept my word about...
And that's kind of funny because that scripture's dealing with us, and I'm just going to take it from here. You know, and that means that we were willing to endure the things that are going on now that we're being demonized on television. You know, the Most High has got his hand over us. Got to remember, though, Angel's been looking over us from the very get-go because we've been preserved for this time. That's why we've been through tough times, to prepare us for what's about to come. And what's about to come is this third woe. But we shall not be affected, but they will be. What they refer to as the rapture is kind of funny because of the fact that there will be chariots beaming us up, but it's not going to be in the way that they think it is. They'll be beaming us up while at the same time shooting their ass. You know, because you got to remember, it was only a couple chariots that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So imagine what those are going to do. You'd be better off dying of a nuclear missile. And 200 million will be coming. So this another video I pulled from Storm Clouds Gathering. He has some interesting information, but it looks like Donald J. Trump tweeted, "The citizens of Venezuela have suffered for far too long at the hands of an illegitimate Maduro regime. Today I have officially recognized the president of the Venezuelan National Assembly, Juan Guaido, as the interim president of Venezuela." So pretty much they are trying to put in their own puppet and trying to overthrow the government. Kind of like how they wanted somebody else to run Syria. But it didn't work, now did it? So this is going to ultimately fail.
Writing off the administration of Nicolas Maduro as illegitimate. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo followed by urging Venezuela's military to restore democracy, affirming that the U.S.
Sound familiar?
Why, though,
It tried to do the same with Assad.
They also promised $20 million in humanitarian aid. And to put this into context, Trump is on record saying he is not going to rule out a military option in Venezuela. This is roughly the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell declaring themselves president, calling on the military to overthrow Trump, and having China pledge to fund and assist the effort. Now, if you happen to be in the camp that wouldn't actually mind seeing Donald Trump forcibly removed from office, I would encourage you to imagine replacing Trump's name with Obama, Bush, Merkel, Macron. You know, there have been a lot of protests.
Doesn't matter. As Bashar al-Assad says, it doesn't matter because they're all temporary anyway, so you're not talking to the leader of the United States. These people ain't leaders, they're puppets.
Leaders are legitimate and which could be deposed by tweet. What kind of precedent does that set? And who's next? The grand irony here is that the exact same media outlets that blasted Trump as a, quote, illegitimate president whose election is tainted by fraud are now calling his regime change ambitions in Venezuela bold. Not only have they refused to criticize the move, but in fact they're hailing this as a, quote, potential foreign policy victory and a political win at home.
Yes, because they want the oil, just like they support the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad, just like they supported the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. Ain't nobody, because all these people are gutter rats, the Amalekites. And speaking of overthrow, it looks like they're planning their next false flag, as Jason Unruh explains in this video.
The Russian Ministry of Defense has put out a warning saying that it's very likely that the rebels, the terrorists inside of Syria, the anti-Assad forces backed by Western powers, are preparing to carry out another false flag chemical attack. In other words, they're getting ready to falsify another chemical attack that will inevitably be blamed on the Syrian government. And the reason they say for this is to create a pretext for the U.S. to return to the war. Speaking during a press briefing in the Russian capital of Moscow on Thursday, Russia's foreign ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova said that there was reports that a Western-backed group, which has been repeatedly accused of cooperating with ISIS terrorists and staging false flag gas attacks, has installed cameras and related equipment in several hospitals across Idlib to film the purported victims of fake chemical attacks. Tensions around the Idlib de-escalation zone are not on the decline. Hayat Tamir al-Sham militants who are running the show there do not only shell nearby settlements on a daily basis, but they are also actively beefing up their presence near the contact line with the Syrian government forces. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense did make a similar warning last year on September 11th when they warned that there was another possible false flag attack coming. I did previously report on that, but thus far we have not seen any attack come out as a result of it. The ISIS-aligned forces have already been caught staging chemical attacks in the country previously. Swedish Doctors for Human Rights have already pointed out that the previous medical services they provided would have actually killed the patients had they not already been deceased. The U.S. has already pledged support to remove forces from the country under the direction of U.S. President Donald Trump. It seems like this new round of chemical attacks may be the justification that the U.S. is looking for to return their forces to the country to continue an effort to stop the Assad government from reclaiming control of the country. It has been very lamented by the Kurds in the countryside that the U.S. is leaving and claim that it will leave them at the mercy of Assad. Now, it seems like this will be used as a pretext to continue to use the Kurds as a proxy force to balkanize the country. But whether or not this false flag attack actually takes place remains to be seen. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please...
See, this devil doesn't change, man. Iraq was the same thing. I'm going to cover more in part 2 of this. Shalom. Brakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Brakatham.